This tragic story of Haley Anderson is just another example of a woman's rejection leading to her death. Haley Anderson was indeed a remarkable woman who resided on Long Island, New York. People admired her for her captivating smile and compassionate nature. Haley was a gifted, ambitious, and devoted woman who was constantly there for her family. She exhibited a kind, caring demeanor that made it easy for others to bond with her. Many others perceived her as nothing short of a bundle of sheer joy. Haley was a nursing student at Binghamton University in New York in 2018. She was a fifth-year student on track to fulfill her ambitions. She had a job set up for her before she graduated. Haley's goal was to relocate to California, purchase a hippie RV, and work as a travel nurse around the state. She had that freewheeling spirit. But before she could achieve all of this, she was brutally murdered. Haley met another nursing student, Kevin Ocampo, on campus. They hit it off right away and began dating. Kevin hosted a party at his home in 2016 and Haley attended. She met fellow student nurse Orlando Tercero at the party. Haley and Orlando had attended a few classes together, but had never truly connected until that night. Orlando and Haley shared a lot in common. They both worked extremely hard during the week and partied on the weekends. Both enjoyed making new acquaintances and seeing new people. They were the party's center of attention most of the time, and they got along quite well. Kevin and Orlando were also great friends. Kevin was forming a fraternity and had sought Orlando's help. They were the only two Hispanics in that circle who could converse in Spanish, which brought them closer together. Haley and Kevin were involved in an on and off relationship, so while they were on a break, Haley would see Orlando. She did, however, clarify that she did not seek a committed monogamous relationship. She was merely looking for a brief affair, and Orlando was cool with it. At least that's what he indicated. Kevin's fraternity brothers soon learned all about Haley and Orlando's hookup. They attempted to persuade Orlando out of this affair, but he ignored them. Haley herself warned him she didn't want to keep the affair going at one point, but Orlando wasn't willing to give up on her. He was obsessed with Haley and couldn't stand hearing no. After the split, Orlando frequently went unannounced to Haley's house. While waiting for her, he would sit on the porch and smoke a cigarette. He also swung by Haley's house at strange hours and bugged her. Orlando was turning into a creep and matters were growing frightening for Haley. Orlando hosted a party in September 2017 and he called Haley. Haley had reconciled with Kevin by this point, and the two went there together. Orlando was enraged when he saw Haley with Kevin. He couldn't tolerate Haley's preference for Kevin over him. Orlando approached Haley, resulted in a heated altercation. There was a lot of screaming and everyone seemed uneasy. Afterwards, Orlando attempted to calm down the situation by playing songs, serving more drinks, and having a fantastic time. However, he had already been rather inebriated by that point and began vomiting. As a result, he had to leave the premises. Kevin drove to Haley's apartment after the party and stayed the night there. When the two left Haley's house the next morning, they saw someone had cut the tires on Haley's car. Kevin implicated Orlando, who denied any participation. The police estimated the damages to be more than $600, making it a crime. However, Haley recognized that if the police apprehended Orlando, he would be expelled from campus and may be deported to Nicaragua. Haley, being the compassionate and caring person she was, did not want to jeopardize a young man's future. As a result, she opted not to file charges. Haley regarded Orlando as a terrific buddy, and she wished to cherish their bond. Unfortunately, she had no idea that this would result in the most serious of consequences. Haley and her roommate spent the night of March 7, 2018 playing cards, getting drunk, and having a great time. There was plenty of screaming, dancing, and excitement in the air. The girls finished everything at 1 a.m. and headed to bed. The next morning, Haley's roommates woke to find Haley's bedroom door closed. They imagined she had slept in or stayed out with other pals. They didn't think much of it. However, they became concerned when they didn't hear from Haley throughout the entire day. Haley would almost always respond to them or be accessible to them. As a result, they attempted to trace Haley's cell phone, and they discovered she had been in Orlando's place. Haley's pals were satisfied now. They assumed she didn't respond to their messages because she felt ashamed about hooking up with Orlando again. She may have been concerned that people would criticize her for her behavior. Of course, this was not the case, and it took them some time to understand it. Orlando's sister was concerned when she had not heard from her brother for the last several days. Orlando called her virtually every day or texted her if he could not chat. As a result, she asked that police do a welfare check on Orlando. However, the cops observed that his automobile was missing. They also banged on the front door to his house but received no response. As a result, they concluded that he had probably left town for a bit. At the time, Haley's friends were unaware of Orlando's whereabouts. They still thought Haley was at Orlando's house. After not speaking to Haley for several days, her friends went to Orlando's house. They went to see their friend and bring her home. That's when they realized that Orlando's car was missing. To see whether anybody was around, the girls banged on the windows and doors. After all, Haley's phone was showing it was inside that location. When they received no answer, they smashed a window. A horrifying image on the inside of the house brought them to a halt. The two friends discovered Haley's undressed body on Orlando's mattress. There was no bleeding, fighting, or damaged items. The home was placid, yet there was a sense of approaching dread. Haley's pals dialed 911 and the cops arrived quickly. Haley was reported to have injuries all over her torso. Her autopsy showed that she had been murdered by being strangled while sleeping. The woman could not even fight back. The CCTV camera on the building assisted the cops in piecing together some of the mystery of the case. The cops discovered a prescription for sleeping medication from a nearby drugstore during their investigations, as well as Orlando's suicide letter, penned in Spanish. He confessed in the letter to having done something terrible. A tie had been used as a strangulation device in the basement. There was also some blood splashes on the floor. Orlando was suspected of having attempted suicide, but he stumbled and injured himself, according to the police. Orlando had contacted his sister, telling her that he was a dishonor to society and that he would be returned to Nicaragua. Security footage from JFK International Airport captures a man with a bandage on his head boarding a plane to Nicaragua. Haley's murder quickly became top news, causing everyone to be outraged that the perpetrator had fled the country. Orlando's mother welcomed him at the airport and drove him to the little village where they resided in Nicaragua. However, the village lacked adequate medical treatment. As a result, Orlando was compelled to visit a hospital in the developed town, roughly an hour-and-a-half's drive away from his village. Someone identified him at the infirmary and called the cops. Soon after, he was detained. But then things got complicated. Orlando was a dual citizen of the United States and Nicaragua. Because he was a Nicaraguan citizen, the police were under no obligation to transfer him to the United States. As a result, they incarcerated him. After more than a year of deliberations, U.S. and Nicaraguan authorities decided that the prosecution would proceed in Nicaragua, with U.S. witnesses testifying by teleconference. The trial would be conducted in accordance with Nicaraguan legislation. Essentially, despite the fact that the crime was committed on American soil, U.S. officials seemed to have no say in the situation. However, they tried all possible ways to gather eyewitnesses' testimony and information in order to build a persuasive case. Orlando's trial began on October 1st, 2019. Haley's mother testified against Orlando. She portrayed Haley as sympathetic and caring, and how Orlando had robbed her of everything. The unfortunate aspect was that every time Haley's mother looked at Orlando, he smirked as if he didn't even care. It crushed her heart to witness the guy responsible for her daughter's murder smiling and laughing. Following that, Haley's friend Kevin and every other witness testified against Orlando. The police also displayed the suicide letter, rope, and other evidence gathered from Orlando's house. They made a compelling point. After hearing the final statements, the judge reached a decision. Orlando was found guilty of murdering Haley. Orlando couldn't believe Haley had a mind of her own and was in charge of her body, lifestyle, and life choices. The judge stated she would not allow men to interfere in the lives of women without their permission. Orlando received the longest term possible for his crimes, 30 years in jail. Orlando attempted to appeal the decision, but it was refused. He is now incarcerated in Nicaragua. Thank you for watching True Crime Prime. If you want to see more of these crime-related videos, kindly subscribe to our channel. Remember to like, share, and comment. Thank you.